Hello and welcome to this information presentation about the Year 10 work experience for 2024. As you can see from the slide, work experience lasts just for 1 week. Some of you might be more familiar with 2 weeks that we've had in previous years, but it's just the 1 week this time, from Monday the 8th of July to Friday the 12th of July. Many companies we found do prefer just the 1 week, so we're hoping that it's going to allow us to be able to access even more companies than we were able to in previous years. Now, when talking about the aims of work experience, it's perhaps best to start off by saying what work experience is not. It's not designed to be an apprenticeship. So it's not really about the students trying to find a company that fits in with the sort of job that they want to do at some point in the future. It is, however, an opportunity for the students to gain an insight into the world of work, to get into that routine of getting up at a certain time, making their way to the workplace. Might well be a little bit further away than they would normally go to school, maybe having to travel in a different way, perhaps by bus or something like that, and doing the full work hours, which often tend to be a little bit longer than the hours that they would spend in school. It's an opportunity for them as well to be getting on with adults in a new environment, very different to the way that they will be treated, or that they are treated in a school. They will be seen as employees, they will be treated as colleagues, and they will be expected to behave in the way that all the other colleagues are. So very much on the same level as the other adults around them. And it's also designed to make a link between school and the world of work, both in terms of the expectations that we have here in school, things like punctuality, appropriate dress, politeness, respect to all members of the community. Those sorts of things will also be important in the workplace, but also they should be able to see how some of the skills that they develop here in school are also relevant to the workplace. Things like numeracy, literacy, computing skills, but also things like communication and problem solving and teamwork will all be important in the workplace. There'll be an opportunity as well for them, I hope, to have a chat with some of the employees, talking about the routes into that particular job, thinking about the qualifications that they might need to get there. And that, again, is something that does link to school, because then when they come back to school, they've got, in many ways, something to aim for. This is what I want to achieve. I wouldn't mind working in a place like that, therefore I need these sorts of grades. Or sometimes I'd want to avoid working in a place like that, therefore I must make sure I get these grades so I don't end up having to work in that particular job. Just a little word about the Employability Partnership, TEP. They are an organisation that work very closely with us in providing the work experience placements. They've got 3 roles. The first one is to set everything up. They source jobs and create a database for us. That's going on at the moment. And then they involved in the safety side of things. So they ensure that the jobs that they secure are appropriate and properly insured. They go out and visit those companies, they look around, they talk to the people who will be supervising the children, and only when they're satisfied that the job is going to be appropriate and worthwhile do they confirm that job on the database itself. And then throughout the whole process, they support us as a school. They provide advice and help right up to the very last day of the placement itself. If you want to find out more about them as a company, you can check out their website. Please do not make direct contact, though. They are really there to work with the school and with the employers, not with the parents. If you've got any questions about work experience, please come to us as a school and we will give you all that advice, support, information that you need. Now, there are 2 ways that students can secure a placement. The first is via the database, which I've already mentioned. More details about that coming up. The other way is to find their own placement, what we call an SOP, student-owned placement. And best way of doing that really is for them to be talking to people that they know, whether it be family members, whether it be family friends, people who work somewhere and who might be able to offer a job at their place of work. Now, it's important that anything that a student finds for themselves is not already on the database. If it's on the database, then we say the students have to just take the chances with everybody else and apply online. The way that they can find out whether it's on the database or not is by looking at the database once it's open. It's not open yet, so in that case they need to go and see Miss Ranitska. If they go to reception, ask for her, she will check her list to see which jobs are there on the database. If the job isn't on the database, she will give them a form, an SOP form. Now, that is the form that the student then takes to get filled in by the employers, by you as parents and carers, and also they need to sign it as well. So they will need to then contact those employers and take the form along, and the employer fills it in with the contact details, but also information about insurance. Once the form is complete, it needs to be returned to Miss Ranitska, and we have a deadline of the 18th of March. Now that deadline is important because then it allows enough time for the employability partnership to go and visit all the different companies. As I say, they need to be making sure that the jobs that are being offered are appropriate, are suitable, are safe for our students. Now, in order to incentivize a prompt return of the SOPs, there is a charge of £5, a late submission charge, which is put on by the employability partnership, and that is something that is passed on to the parents or maybe even the students to pay. The employability partnership then, as I say, go out and do the health and safety check. Now, if it's all within the Cambridgeshire area, that's all covered in the cost that the school has already paid. If they go out, that does incur further charges. So if they have to travel a little bit further, or they have to get somebody else to do the check for them, the cost, that extra cost, is passed on. Now, it's not something that the school can pay, so that would have to be paid by parents and carers. And please note, it is quite expensive, usually a minimum charge of £50. So do feel free to find a placement outside of Cambridge, but just beware that you are likely to have to pay a little bit extra for that to happen. Once the employability partnership are happy that the job is appropriate and safe, then they confirm that with us, we confirm it with the students, and then the student is just good to go. With regards to the school placements, the ones that are on the database, this is how the students go about finding them. So the database is online. There is a link to that database on the school website. As I say, it's not open yet, but in the spring term it will be open, and Miss Ranitska will send an email with the login details and the password to the student's school email address. Now that is due to go out on the 3rd of January, so from that date students do need to be looking out for it and then checking the database. By that point we should have over 100 placements on there. And there will be more that are going to be added as the weeks go on. So students make their choice by really getting advice from tutors, teachers and family. They will be able to give good advice as to what might be most suitable for the student to go for, what might suit their skills, their personalities, those sorts of jobs. And the students then look on that database and they choose between 3 and 6 placements, all entered online. And it's important to note that those placements are not considered in rank order. We assume that if a student has put down a placement, they are willing and ready to go to that placement. Now, for that reason, it's really important that students check the hours that they are due to be working, transport, how far away that placement is, and what any clothing requirements might be. I suggest that you as parents and carers also double check on that to make sure your child hasn't signed up for a placement that is going to be a little bit trickier to get to. We ask that any student going for the placements on the database, they complete all of that by the 19th of January. So they will have about 2 weeks to be looking and selecting. There must be no contact with any business, though, until the placements are confirmed. Now, just before we move on, a quick note about primary schools. They are an excellent place to go on work experience. We have very successful placements all over the years that we've done this. But the primary schools themselves request that students do not apply to the primary school either that they went to or a primary school where they have siblings. There are all sorts of very valid safeguarding reasons why this shouldn't be the case. However, there are plenty of primary schools out there all offering a very, very good experience, so students just need to apply to a different one. So how are placements allocated? Well, we give priority to students who have an additional educational need, whatever that might be. The other available placements are allocated by the school according to what has been requested. Now, one of the things we ask the students to do is to write a reason why they want a particular placement. And if there is a particularly good reason that a student is able to write down, that gives them a greater likelihood of being offered that particular placement. However, as you can see, we cannot guarantee that all students will get one of their choices. Some of our placements are very, very popular. And if your child applies for 3 or more of those placements where 30 or more other children have applied, someone is going to be disappointed. However, what we do is make sure that we match them with a similar alternative, whether that be on the database or it might be through a contact that we've made from work experience in previous years. So what happens once placements are allocated? Well, Ms. Ranitzka, she will give the students a blue 3-way agreement form. It's very similar to the student-owned placement in that the students then contact employers, they get the employers to sign it, and the students themselves sign it, and you as parents and carers sign it as well. We ask that this is all completed again by the 18th of March. It is important that the students get on and do this as quickly as possible. There have been occasions in the past where students have just sat on the form, forgotten about it, not taken it to the employer, and by the time they get round to it, the employer has assumed that Netherhall doesn't want the placement and they've offered it to another school. So once your child has been allocated a place, you will be informed of this by email as well. Please, please, please be on it and make sure that at the very least they make a phone call to the employer, just so that the employer is aware that they are taking up that placement, and then as soon as they can after that to go and visit that employer to get the form filled in. Sometimes the employer may ask the child to come for an interview. It's not an interview whereby they will hire them or say, no, sorry, we don't want you after all. It is more an interview to get to know the child so that they can make sure that they tailor their placement in the best way possible so that the child gets the most out of it. Now, once on placement, there is a fair bit of monitoring that takes place just to ensure that your child is safe. There is a workbook that the students fill in during the week, and it helps them to reflect on that experience. It gives them a few little pointers, things to be trying to do, questions to ask, and some advice on things like health and safety as well. there is a phone call that will be made. A teacher will phone the placement very, very early in the week just to check that the child has got there in the first place, but also that things are going well. Now, there may well also be a visit during the week. That won't be able to happen in every single case. We haven't got the staff to be able to go out at that particular time. However, if there is a child that we feel is particularly nervous or anxious and might need a visit as reassurance, or if there is a placement where we're aware that things maybe there've been a few little issues that just need to be resolved, then we will go in and do that. So we certainly don't want to leave any child in a placement where they're not feeling too confident or not feeling too happy, and we do resolve things just as quickly as we can. Fortunately, there are very, very few instances of that on any year that we've done this. Everything does work together. The employers are always very proactive in making sure that their placements are as good as they can possibly be, and obviously the work of the Employability Partnership in advance has ensured that these placements are appropriate as well. Now, once the placement is finished, certificates of distinction are awarded to those students who have demonstrated excellence during the fortnight. Now, that could be on the recommendation of the employer, or if they have been visited, it might be on the recommendation of a teacher if a student has done particularly well. And students themselves will complete an evaluation on their return, and that just helps us in our preparation for the following years, so that we know the sorts of things to avoid, sorts of things that might help students in the future as well. So our final few slides, just giving you a little bit of key information. So key dates here. Students have had an assembly last week, and this is the information evening. It was on the 29th of November, and this is a recording to go along with that information evening. So really, from now onwards, if a student wants to do their own placement, they need to be investigating that possibility of doing so, and then coming and talking to Ms. Ranitska about it. From the 3rd of January, logins and passwords for the database will be issued. And from that time, up until the 19th of January, that is when they get to choose the jobs from the database. The week following that, we will allocate those jobs. If any are still available, might be that some students didn't get round to logging on, we will then open up the database once the first round of jobs has been allocated. So really, from the 26th of January, paperwork needs to be completed. So the database paperwork, the school-based jobs need to be completed, and really all the other paperwork for the own placements should be well on the way by that time. The deadline for that paperwork is the 18th of March. Really important that students keep to that deadline. It ensures that everything runs really smoothly if they can all do that. In fact, that deadline is so important, it appears again at the top of this slide. And then from the 18th of March, the Employability Partnership, they visit the placements, making sure everything is okay. And then we do some preparation within school during May and June. So during the sitcom lessons, there are modules. There will also be some assemblies during this time where we talk about how to make the most of work experience, health and safety considerations, and we get students to consider scenarios. What would you do if this was the case? What would you do if this happened? In that way, students are really thoroughly prepared for that week that they go out. And as you can see there, that week is the 8th to the 12th of July. So here we go, some useful information and contacts. So the school website has a lot of information on there. Ms. Ranitska is our work experience coordinator. so she can be contacted via email or by phone, and she really does know everything there is to know about the work experience and all the dates, the deadlines, and all the little things that need to be done. I am the head of work-related learning and enterprise, so I do oversee the whole of the work experience process. So do please come or contact me if you have questions that you feel haven't been answered to your satisfaction elsewhere. And then there is the employability partnership. So you've got the website there that you can just check them out if you really do want to. But that is the end of the presentation. So thank you very much for listening to all of this. I hope it's been useful. If you do have further questions, please do not hesitate to contact either myself or Mr. Anitzka, and we will do all we can to ensure that you get the information you need and to ensure that the work experience for week itself is as smooth and successful as it can possibly be.